Hello, everyone. I hope you can see me, hear me, see my screen. If you can, please just let me know that you can see me, hear me, and see my screen in the chat. That would be really, really wonderful. Thank you so much for joining. Such a pleasure to have you all on the call. Today, we're going to be talking about eating well. And this is something that can really help us, but also if we have clients, we can use everything we're going to be talking about today to help our clients. And interestingly enough, I was actually digging my old notes, just have like so much material out there. And about 3 years ago or so, I was preparing a lecture on eating well when I was studying at Kripalu, Ayurveda, and some other techniques. But I never actually I never created this lecture. So now you'll be first one to hear about this. And as always, please stay at the end of the session. And then we're going to open up to everybody for questions and live coaching. So with that said, let me get started. It was December 1994. My son was 7 years old. We lived in Brooklyn, Park Slope, 15th Street and 8th Avenue. And my son is a really funny guy, still is, and his sense of humor sometimes is really difficult to figure out that it is really a joke. It takes me even today, takes me time to figure it out. So basically, there was a commercial on TV. I think it was some kind of microwaved food. And he said, "Hey, this must be really good." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, it's because it's on TV. It has to be good." He's still using that joke to this day, I think. If it's on TV, it's got to be good. I just reminded him recently. So what I would like you to think about marketing, right? Think about all the messages that we're getting from, not just from the food industry, from food, drinks, even like drugs, prescription drugs. They force these advertisements on us on the TV, and then we go to doctor and tell them what medication we want. So we really got to be aware of the marketing and think about what's really good for us without thinking, let me watch all these ads. And sometimes we are forced to watch these ads, even in today's streaming world. But anyway, it's really about marketing. And then you see, like in the old days, if you think about it, our grandparents, did they really need science to tell them what to eat? Not really. I mean, they ate food. It's really that simple. Fresh food, fruit, vegetables, meat, fish. When I was growing up back in my country, Bosnia and Herzegovina, former Yugoslavia, I would simply go to my grandmother's garden and pick up a piece of fruit. And on the market, we did not have organic food, believe it or not. There was no organic food. We had food. And the food, that was organic. That was it. That was food. Although, a little disclaimer, I learned that later on some farmers started using chemicals, what I was told. But anyway, we ate food. And today we know that organic food is really very expensive. So if you can afford, any organic food, then you need to know which foods you should buy organic and which you don't have to. So I'd like to share with you what they call the dirty dozen. And what's a dirty dozen? I've heard of this first time 3 years ago, and you might know of it. But it's basically, there are 12 foods, fruits and vegetables that if you can afford, you should probably buy organic, at least sometimes, right? And these foods are really contaminated, and then, if and when possible, you should avoid it. Do I always buy these food organic? No, I don't, right? But sometimes I try, right? Because again, it's expensive. So let's take notes. This would be a really good time to take some notes and to look at these most contaminated foods. So peaches, apples, sweet bell peppers, celery, nectarines, strawberries, cherries, pears, grapes, especially imported grape for some reason. I guess just when I said imported, I'm talking here, from U.S., imported into the U.S., but it's probably imported into like the West world. Spinach, lettuce, and potatoes, believe it or not. So these are the 12 most contaminated foods. Now, let's take a look at the 12 least contaminated foods. So something that we don't have to buy organic. Onions, avocado, sweet corn, especially frozen, pineapples, mango, asparagus, sweet peas, again, especially frozen, kiwi, bananas, cabbage, broccoli, and papayas. So again, these are the 12 least contaminated foods. So you may want to pay attention to that. Now, did you know that, I'm sure you did, you can actually, we can change our body, of course, by just changing our food. Makes sense, right? But if we simply, like I said, choose to eat food and choose, whole-based plant food, then we'll be good. Now, I wonder if you can think of how many fruits and vegetables we need a day. They keep changing it. The latest that I'm aware of was 7 to 9. I know it sounds a lot, but more we do, better it is for us. So 7 to 9 portions of fruit and vegetables. Now, again, like a plate, how the plate should look like, and they keep changing that plate. First of all, at least here in the West, our plate is big. So please just buy smaller plates. That's the first thing. It's the first thing you should do. But basically, what we should be eating is that 50% should be fruits and vegetables. 25% is protein, and ideally like plant-based protein. Now, did you know, this is actually an interesting fact, that protein is really good to eat because it kind of takes care of by itself. The body will, if you will, to make it simplify, eat those calories. So if you want to eat something, the proteins are, good thing to eat. And then 25% is starch grains. So that's kind of how our plate should look like. Now, I would like to share just really a few resources to get some more information. First, there's American Institute for Cancer Research. And I'm sure other countries, wherever we are watching, have your own research. But this website is called, it is AICR.org, American Institute for Cancer Research, AICR.org. It's really, really great resource. You may want to look at some Mediterranean pyramid. And another good website is called Old Way SPT, oldwayspt.org. It also has a lot of great information for us to look at. So if you think about food, what do you think is the most important thing? So we know it's important what we eat, right? But according to Ayurveda, which I'm going to first explain what that is, you might know again, but if you don't, for some of you that don't, let me just look at, give you the definition rather from Johns Hopkins Medicine. And I'm just going to read this definition. So Ayurveda, a natural system of medicine, originated in India more than 3,000 years ago. Somewhere I read that's more than 5,000 years ago, but I do believe Johns Hopkins. The term Ayurveda is derived from the Sanskrit words Ayur, which is life, and Veda, science or knowledge. So the Ayurveda translates to knowledge of life. And it's based on the idea that disease is due to an imbalance or stress in a person's consciousness. Ayurveda encourages certain lifestyle interventions and natural therapies to regain a balance between the body, mind, spirit, and the environment. I love that they also talk about the environment. That really, really kind of clicks with me, really. So, if we are stressed out, think about when we are stressed out, we don't digest food really well. Why? Because the body is prioritizing the survival. That's why, right? So it's more important to be in the survival mode at that point, rather than waste the energy on digesting your food. Makes sense. So what we eat, of course, it's important, but the problem is that the food become a thing, the thing we have to do. So what do? We'll just make a quickly smoothie, or all these little snacks, or sometimes even pills. So I know even when my son was in college years ago, he said that his friends were not drinking coffee. They would just take a pill. I was like, come on. They would just take coffee and pill instead. And that's just that laziness, right? And sometimes we are too lazy too, and we take something that we really shouldn't be taking, right? So, earlier I said that our grandparents really didn't need the science, right, to tell them what to eat. So if you simply just start eating like your grandparents, the chances are you're eating well. The chances are you are eating what I call food. And that's what you should be eating. Another thing is that we don't pay much attention is that it's really all about, so we talked about what we eat, but it's also how and why. How and why. And another fact is that, they keep telling us about the fat and how that's bad for us. But the fact is that problem is not the fat. The problem is processed fat. And that's our trouble. So it's not the fat itself, it's the processed fat. And unfortunately, we eat so much processed fat, we eat so much processed food. And again, if there is one thing you want to do for yourself to try to minimize that processed food, minimize that processed food if you can. And again, eat food, eat food. Another thing is to eat, not eat seasonally and locally as much as you can. I mean, this is again how our grandparents, grandparents lived. They lived, or grand, all the generations, they lived on the land. So they ate what was available during that season and what's available locally, right, where they lived. And this is really, really important, right? This is really, really important. So now, did you know that the cooked food is easy to chew? Well, you knew that, right? But in fact, it releases more nutrients than raw food. The cooked food often releases more nutrients than the raw food. And then, you know, if you think about, for most of us that, you know, that we get stressed out, and what do we really do? What do we do when we get stressed out? What do we really do? Maybe it's just me, but, you know, we tend to eat heavy food, right? We tend to eat heavy food. And then sometimes the heavy food makes sense, right? And the comfort food also makes sense. There is a space for comfort food. But when should we eat heavy food? Well, in winter, at least for some of us that have the seasons, right? Winter, summer. In winter, we should eat heavier food. You know, why did they eat heavier food in the winter, you know, generations before us? Because there was nothing in a garden, at least in certain part of the world. Again, I'm thinking here in the West, right? Or not everywhere in the West, but let's say where I live now, New York, right? Winter is cold, it's snow. There's really nothing in a garden, right? And so we eat some heavier food, right? In summer, we should eat a lighter food. This all, I know it makes sense, but if we can stick to some of these rules, we can truly, truly improve our life and get to that true life success. So also our digestion system is actually stronger in the winter than in summer. Again, talking about the countries that have these seasons, right? So what does it say? Well, if we have a stronger digestion system in winter, that's in the winter we should eat soups and stews. And again, this just makes so much sense. Summer is salads, right? We should eat lighter. Of course, so again, all depends where we live, but what's in a season and what's fresh is really what makes sense. Now, if you think about spices, we use spices really we think we use them because it just gives all the great taste to the food. But in fact, they are great to digest the food, right? This is really how we started using spices, to help us digest. So cooking with some spices, like, you know, cooking with the black pepper and so on, will really help us digest the food. And that's why this is important. So here's another simple rule. You know, when you have a big meal and afterwards you just don't feel good, you know, does it happen to you? I know it happens to me, right? I just want to have a big meal. And then afterwards, I just like don't feel well. Well, if you feel good afterwards and you had big meal, that's fine, right? Regardless what you eat. But if you don't feel well, try to remember that. Try to remember so that there can be trigger. Some of you who studied habits with me, there can be trigger for you to say, hold on. Last time I had that huge meal, I didn't feel well. So let me not have it again. So there could be trigger to help you not to have that a big meal. Now, here's another thing. It takes a time for the message from the stomach, right, to come to our brain. It really does take a time. This is why we often eat more than we should, because by the time that message gets to our brain, we are already full. So if you can stop, by the time you reach about 80%, whatever 80% for you is, maybe it's this big meal, maybe it's this big meal, I don't know. But if we can stop about at 80%, the chances are will be happier, healthier, and that by itself will improve our overall well-being, and it will not let us get bigger than we want to be. Eating smaller portions later afternoon is what makes sense. You know, in my country, that used to be, we used to say that you eat breakfast alone, you split lunch with your friends, and you give your dinner to your enemy. Now, I don't know. I'm not sure, you know, I'm sure you don't have any enemy, so you're going to have a trouble with giving your dinner. But this really makes sense. We get up, then we need like energy, right, for the whole day. So although often, at least here in the West part of the world, you know, again, talking United States that I know the most, you know, we tend to have like smaller breakfast, we tend to have bigger lunch, and we tend to have huge dinner, which is really the opposite what we should be doing. But if you do have that big dinner, and I hope you don't, at least not that big, but at least if you do, then try to do what I do. So don't eat 3 to 4 hours before you go to sleep. So like for me, the dinner time is 6 p.m. and I go to sleep around 9. So it gives me about 3 hours. If I can even give a little more, it would be good, but it's really hard to eat before 6. I get hungry later on, and then that creates another problem. You don't want to be hungry before you go to sleep, because why? Because you're going to eat junk food, and you don't want that. Why you don't want junk food? Why don't you want sugar? Because sugar is not good energy for you. That's why you don't want it. So just remember that. Okay, so how many meals should I have a day? 2 to 4. That should be really ideal, right? But this is 2 to 4 with no snacking. If you can, try 2 to 4 with no snacking. So we talked about dinner. Make sure that you at least, you know, at least 2 to 3, I would say 3 to 4 hours before you go to sleep. Because it really takes 4 to 5 hours to digest the food that you don't want your body to spend most of the time. You know, you don't want to go to sleep, and then what does body do? It works so hard to digest that food, right? Instead of relaxing and sleeping. Another thing is, actually, I'm going just to mention one more thing, which I think it's important. I don't know what's the kind of habit in your country, but I do know that, again, here in the West, we eat a lot of cold drinks. And, back when I was growing up in Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, we really didn't drink, cold water out of the fridge. We drank water from a faucet, which was, we did have a beautiful, still do, beautiful spring running water. And also we didn't, even like some, say like beer, everybody loves cold beer. Well, actually in UK, I do know that we when I go there, we'll drink a warm beer as well. But here's the issue with the cold drink. Your body needs to work really hard to digest that very cold drink, especially like in the summertime, anytime, right? But it really needs to work harder rather than just room temperature drink. And that's something to think about, something to try, right? Something to try to have, a room temperature. I know when I was growing up, my mom would never let me have like really, really cold drink, especially like after I was exercising or running. When I said exercising, I didn't exercise when I was a kid. I played. We all did, right? Played soccer and so on. We were just outside playing with the kids. So anyway, I'm hoping that some of these quick ideas will help you, and that you can help your clients eat well, choose what to eat, and also choose how and when to eat. So now I am going to give me 1 second to unmute everybody. Let's see what was in the Q&A. Zoe, hey Zoe, good to see you. Ben Vaughn, Zoe was asked a Q&A. This is the Q&A box, not the chat. Question, yeah, you said chat box was disabled. I'm honestly not. Let's see. Can you see this? So maybe, I think what's happening is that because we're running a webinar now rather than just Zoom call, so there are a couple of features that are different. So feel free, please, to use that Q&A and/or I believe everyone is unmuted. Zoe, are you going to sing for us? You've been doing so wonderful. I just love watching you and your family. You just did that amazing concert over the weekend, I believe, and I just can't wait for you folks to come to US or for me to see you in the UK.
Well, can you hear me now?
Oh, sorry. I do apologize. Give me 1 second just to get my headset. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead, Zoe.
Yeah, so you can hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because there's no, from this end, there's no way of knowing anymore, you see, whether you can or not. It's a little bit confusing, but
I apologize. Now I can.
There's that lovely smile. That's all I need, you see. If I know you're smiling, then that's great. Nice to speak to you again. I thought I'd better come along and join in, seeing as I hadn't been here for a while. I've been teaching on Monday night, so it hasn't really worked out for me. But bank holiday for me today, you see, in the UK.
Oh, it's a bank holiday, right? You know what I used to,
lovely.
well, since I don't I don't work. This is what I do. I don't call this work. So because I worked for the financial institution, I used to know when all the UK bank holidays are, but I forgot that today is a bank holiday.
Yeah, I've been on the beach all day, so I'm very happy today.
Nice, good for you. So yeah, you know what? We'll let's talk like offline. I mean, I'm trying to figure out when the timing is the best for all the members and so on. So certainly we need to figure out if we need to make any changes and so on.
Yes. Yeah, well, I thought it very interesting talk about food and things. It's always nice to kind of have similar things reinforced. I mean, I go to yoga classes, so a lot of the things that you say are things that we talk about anyway as part of the group that we have. So, yeah, keeping it local and seasonal is the challenge, isn't it? If you can do that, if you can find people that can provide the things you need, it's brilliant. I mean, I've got a greenhouse. I'm very lucky that I've got the space to have a greenhouse, so we grow our own tomatoes and cucumbers. I say we, actually, the husband does more of it than I do. I'm not very good at keeping on top of it, but I'm very happy to eat it all. And we've got a hose pipe ban in the UK at the moment, which is not ideal either, but that's fine because we can collect water from the water butts and use that to water everything. So yeah, that's the best thing, if you can grow your own. I mean, some things are not practical. Okay, we're not going to ever be able to grow peppers and bananas and things like that they can do in other countries, but for the things that we can grow ourselves, there's nothing better. It always tastes better, I think, if it's come out of your own soil.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what happened is we just forgot how we used to live. We just forget that, I mean, I really, I think and I think it's really important what you just said is that this is just a reminder. These are all things that we know, but we just have to keep reminding ourselves. We have to keep, anytime you go and pick up that snack in a store, you have to remind yourself this is all processed food. It's not food. Yeah. It's just processed stuff that we
don't really need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I mean, the I keep it simple because I get confused because you're bombarded all the time by, oh, this food is good for you, this food isn't, and then next week it's something else.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is, like you say, the way that we should be eating or that works best for us is it's not news anymore, is it? That's the problem. So I think
Yes.
people tend to forget the old messages and perhaps they find them a bit boring, or they've forgotten about them or whatever, because we were all educated this way in schools. That's how we educate people, how to eat healthily and what to do. So we know the information really. It's just for whatever reason, when we're adults, we think that maybe we know better, or maybe there's a quicker, faster way to do it, or there's a different diet that'll sort all our problems out for us, and then we won't have to do that. Whereas actually, it's a lifetime, isn't it? It's a lifetime commitment.
Yes. And
Eating
by the way,
properly. There's no shortcuts.
for those of you who don't know, Zoe is also a post psychology master coach. She's doing a lot of work in coaching, in schools, and she's an amazing musician. And yeah, so I really wanted to. I really wanted to. So, Zoe, I don't know. Again, this I'm gonna just turn to a couple other folks. I don't know. What do you actually? I guess with the webinar, you just see me, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah. So this is, we also gonna have. We also will have. We're introducing more things into the academy. So this is one will be just the weekly lecture, and then when we get just to the coaching call, then we'll come into a regular Zoom call. I know we have a Vaughn, who's also post-psychology master coach. Ben joined us. Ben, if you're welcome to, I'm going to turn to Vaughn in a second why? Because he can help us so much as a nutritionist, and I didn't talk to him about this, but he can help us.
It's his specialism, isn't it?
Yeah, that's his.
So he'll be really useful to talk to.
Yeah, he's probably going to say a lot of things that I was wrong. I mean, he's going to tell me. I'm just kidding. But before I do that, Ben, did you have any question or anybody else?
Yes, Barato. Hi, welcome.
Hey, good to see you.
Likewise. I was looking forward to join your master accreditation here with the special you had running last week, but unfortunately it didn't seem to be the right timing. But still in the back of my mind, one day will be a graduate of yours. What I did want to recommend is that somehow it would be very helpful to have either a mail out or an email with the topics discussed in the Monday webinar, as such as today, with let's say for last week it was starting your coaching business. You had multiple great ideas, perhaps even the presentation slides in a whichever digital form you have it. If it's in one of what do they call it? What do they call these?
Just a presentation. We can create PDF, or you mean like the Canva or PowerPoint?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the word, PowerPoint. So that would be very, very helpful as a follow-up to those participants who are interested. If you participate in a webinar, it shows that you're interested, and information provided would be very helpful in executing those ideas.
Makes sense. So Ben, you're thinking, so your point is that after the webinar, I know we also should be giving probably monthly schedule, or, we should be a little more upfront so people know ahead of a schedule what's coming. I know that's kind of still not there, but you're talking about the follow-ups. I know that we try every Monday by end of the day to post all of this on a membership site so that everybody has access to sometimes we don't post the PDFs. So that's missing, right? Okay.
It doesn't need to be PDF. It could be the PowerPoints. I don't know which form.
Yeah. I understand. I think the video
PDF, you'll be able to take your original write-ups and scan them or whatever it is. But the idea is that, number one, it keeps us connected. Number two, it gives us more opportunity to execute those ideas and carry them out. And it is very informative. As you say, even a day earlier, I got the email, the reminder, although it's in my calendar, but I got the email that this webinar is taking place today. I got it this morning, which is fine. But a day earlier would have been like, just, given a drop more scheduling, it would be beneficial. But in any event, I look forward to these Monday meetings. These are terrific sources of information. And I really one day hope to meet you in person, because you seem to be exactly what I intend to become.
Thank you, my friends. Same here. Same here. I'm sure we'll, if nothing else, we'll figure out a way to get online to get to know each other better. So I appreciate you. You come on the calls. The calls, we might change something. The reason here's what happened is, and just for everybody to understand, we used to send like a couple messages a day. A week. And as far as what's happening with the calls. And then at one point we were getting feedback, this is too much. We know it's Mondays. We know it's 3 o'clock. It's already on my calendar. You don't have to tell me. So we kind of cut down the messages. I think we have to find a happy medium. But I appreciate your feedback. I'm going to look, definitely took a note about sending the follow-up in a written format in addition to, so posting that on membership in addition to video. So this way you don't have to watch again. You can just take a look, print this, and use it as
if I may add a piece of advice regarding the emails. There are platforms, I'm not sure exactly which one you use, but if someone might want a certain email from either the webinar, someone wants from something else, there's a email preference that you can, I'm not sure exactly which one you're using, which platform you're using, but there would be like, if someone wants to unsubscribe from a specific email, you can have it categorized by, it's a newsletter, webinar calendars, and you either X out that box or you leave it. So like that, they only get what they're interested in. That would be my other piece of it.
Yeah, I exactly what you're talking about. We use Kajabi, and that's very simple to set up. I believe that's how it is set up. But good point. These are, I really, guys, thanks so much for staying longer and giving me feedback. This is what's really, really important. This is how we can make this better for everybody. It's the only way, because I don't know, right? I can just think I know what people want, but I don't. How do I know? How do I know what band, what you guys want? I don't know that unless you tell me. So again, appreciate, because this is really helping me, and you guys are helping everybody else, right? You guys are helping everybody else. Vaughn, I wanted to, if you could, if you do have a couple of minutes, we would love to hear from you, because you are, as far as I know, well, you have multiple things that you do. You're also a post-psychology master coach. You started one business, now you started another business. I want to hear from you about food and nutrition, because that was one of your specialty. And and by the way, you were like bodybuilder at one point as a young guy. I remember seeing the pictures, like, wow, what's this? So talk to us, my friend.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I can. I'm sure everybody else can.
Okay, I've just come back from overseas and everyone moved stuff in my office. So I was scrambling around finding my microphone, but I've just found it and plugged it in. So
it's working. I'm back. Still working.
I'm back in more ways than one.
Cool.
So the sort of nutrition that I coach is very much in line with what you've been talking about. So I never write a meal plan for anybody. I just hate writing meal plans, and also I find you put a lot of work into it and people don't follow it. And it really doesn't work for many people, because if you eat totally specifically for a while in a way that doesn't suit you, it's something you can't stick to. So I think that's quite important. That I think Zoe was saying people jump on fad diets, and even if they get results, from those diets, they don't tend to stick. The relapse with interest is a real thing. People end up with more weight problems than they started with if they restrict too much and change their diet too much. So I'm very much into habit-based nutrition. That's what I've been trained in, and that's what I practice and seems to work well. And the other thing that you mentioned, one thing that they push a lot with people who want to lose weight is the 80% full rule. And interestingly, if you want to gain weight, because there are some folks out there, as you mentioned, when I back in my bodybuilding days, you reverse it. So you end up eating till you're 120% full. And over time, you can actually increase your stomach's capacity, and it doesn't feel that weird anymore. But yeah, I'm on the fence about that one, because I think I've had some health problems from being bigger than I should have been at different points, even if most of it was muscle. So yeah, I think people have what's called a natural set point, and that's set at about, I think it's around about 18 months, and then about 3 years, and about 18 years, and your body will want to return to that set point.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning. This is really important. I forgot to. This is really, really important.
Because you said at one stage you were, can't imagine it, but you were significantly overweight.
Yes, so I was about 200 pounds, 197, I believe, and what I have a record of. I was probably bigger, but this is when I started saying, hey, man, let me weigh myself every day. I got to do something about it. So what do you think about, and I think this is just personal, but I kind of like to hear your opinion based on, your work. Like for me and for some of my clients, I know it really works. I want to get on, I get on a scale every morning for the past, I don't know how many years, 7, 8 years, every morning, right? And I used to just write down a piece of paper, and now I have this thing, so it records it. So I know, I can look at 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, whatever. And that works for me. For some people, that doesn't work. It just scares them and it pushes them away. For me, it's motivation. For some other, what do you think of that?
I don't recommend anything more than in terms of frequency, than a weekly. That would be maximum for me, preferably monthly. And I think with women, because of their hormonal fluctuations, doing it daily can unnecessarily freak them out when they're just simply retaining water or whatever else happens during their cycle. So yeah, I don't think it's certainly not something I would recommend for everybody. But if you find it works for you, then that's fine. But no, I recommend weekly at the most for most of the people that I work with.
That's good. So that's kind of in general. I mean, the only reason what kind of like for people like myself, what really works is I know exactly what happened the day before. Like I know why I gained, I know why I lost. I mean, it's pretty, scientific. Although I can tell you this morning, and this is really true, it was about, I don't know, like about 4:50. I think I was like 10 minutes early. I woke up. And so I weigh myself, and then I just had just tiny bit of water, a tiny sip. And I got up like 10 minutes later, I was 0.4 heavier, 0.4 pounds, right? So that goes to what you were just saying. Sometimes we just retain a little more water, and you can't really go by, right?
Yeah, you have to kind of weigh yourself naked at exactly the same time of the day.
That's what I do. It's always, for me, it's like, it's just, that's what it is.
Yeah. But the best thing I've found for people gaining, losing, whatever, it's really boring and unsexy, but this is what works for me, and what So serious athletes or people who really want to change their physiques is eating very similarly each day.
Yeah.
It might be boring, but so the way it works best, I think, is for people to basically eat more or less the same if you're eating 4 or 5 meals a day. So if you're having 5 meals a day, you would eat pretty much exactly the same four and then mix it up on the fifth, just so you don't go crazy. That seems to work pretty well for a lot of people because decision fatigue is a real thing. And if you're always thinking about what you have to do in every aspect of your life, you get worn out by the end of the day. So if you take all the decision making out of your nutrition, that's helpful in that sense, and it's also helpful in almost in a scientific experimental type sense. So if you're eating pretty similarly each day, you'll know what's working and what's not.
That makes sense. I'll just make one comment. I really want to have folks to ask you questions. When you said it takes away of decision making, I think that makes just so much sense. If you think about our clothes, right, and going for work and trying to figure out what to wear, then you have some of like well-known people, Zuckerman, and let's not like Steve Jobs, and it's like black T-shirt. And that's every day. That's it. I have like 50 black T-shirts, and that's all I wear, or whatever that is, right? White shirt, whatever that is. It just makes sense because it leaves energy for brain to make more important decision than what am I going to wear today. Let me turn to folks to see if they have any questions, please. This is really, really interesting discussion. If you don't mind, Vaughn, if they have some questions.
No, that's fine.
So does anybody have a question for Juan?
Hello, Vaughn. Can you hear me again? I'm sort of switching off in between. Can you hear me at the moment? Yes, because I can actually see it says I'm talking at the top. It's hard to know who's on and who's talking and things. Anyway, yeah, I put a question in the box just now. When it comes to, because what would be great is just to sort out the whole food business, do the same forever, all the way through your life, and you know that you're going to be in control of it because you're doing the same. But unfortunately, what happens is, as I've discovered in the last 5 years or so, is as you get older, your body changes, so do your nutritional needs. So what's the best way of making sure that you're aware of that, first of all, and that you make the right changes?
Well, that's what I've discovered recently myself. So just to give a specific example, I make this natural muesli that I have every morning, and I've got this measuring cup and I measure it out. And then all of a sudden I've discovered, obviously my metabolism has gradually slowed down. So now I simply have 3/4 of a cup rather than a full cup, because your metabolism does slow down as you get old, especially if you don't do any form of resistance training. For most people that's weights, but you can also do body weight exercises or band exercises or whatever, but your muscle mass will decline as you get older. So
do you think that's
you can keep your metabolism going a bit better if you are willing to do some resistance exercise. But yeah, it slows down for pretty much everyone unless you use growth hormone or something, some other exogenous stimulation.
okay? So you can, because I've heard from a couple of other places that obviously diet and exercise together are a great package, and it's hard to know just how much influences things and how much does. And I've always sort of thought of it as about 80% diet and 20% exercise. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very I don't know, in bodybuilding circles they say you can't out train a bad diet, but if you just look at it mathematically, you see all the effort that goes into running a marathon, and for most people that burns about 3,500 calories, which is one, 1 pound, is it 1 pound or 1 kilo of fat? But whichever it is, not particularly much for running a whole marathon. So you're going to have to do a lot of exercise to burn it off directly. The main benefit of exercise for weight control is it's called EPOC. So this increase in your metabolism that continues on after you've finished exercising, which is more considerable for more intense exercise. So walking won't keep your metabolism revved up as high as, say, weight training or high intensity circuit training.
Yeah.
But
So
it doesn't
if
have to
I'm
be specific exercise either. Just movement is great.
so if
Have
I
you heard
because
of
my
Have you heard
preferred
of NEAT?
exercise, I've what? Sorry,
Oh, have you heard of the concept of NEAT?
what does that stand for?
It's basically just it's non-exercise activity thermogenesis, but it basically just means your movement outside of specific exercise. So housework, taking the steps instead of the elevator, parking your car further away so you walk a bit further, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But can I just jump in for a second, Zoe? Sorry, I hope I didn't hold your next question. What you just mentioned, NEAT, this is actually in line to, if you guys recall, I don't know if I mentioned one of your courses, but there was when Ellen Langer, she had a student, actually Tal Ben-Shahar, and they had a student, and she actually did the research. I'm not going to go much into this, but basically the research shows that she did the research with maids. And basically when she told them exactly what you just saying, that what you guys do every day, it's basically exercise. It's equivalent to burning this many calories, right? So I do the same thing. Like if I just jump or dance or like, I walk in the garden or I'm cleaning the house, I know that's my exercise. My brain knows now, and I believe I burn more calories because my brain got smarter. But seriously, I think this is really important because people always think, oh, I have to go on treadmill, I have to go on bike. I don't like that. You don't have to do any of that, right? You can just dance, you can just clean your house all day.
Yeah, my wife, we used to go to the gym together all the time, but then children came along and she just got really busy with all that sort of thing. So now she stays in really good shape just by gardening hard out. And I just checked, and it is, it's a pound of fat, not a kilo. That's really depressing. So you can run a whole marathon and you'd lose a pound of fat. Imagine how easy it is to gain a pound of fat.
Well, I guess for some of us who do exercise and watch these things, we know what it takes to burn out 100 or 200 calories, right? Even just like 100 calories takes, right?
Yeah.
200. It's like, come on, it's like a little snack. I just spent 40 minutes to burn that snack.
That's the thing. I find if I do hard exercise, like I'll do a Zumba class. So if I do 60 minutes of dancing, when I come home, I want to eat more actually. And I don't know whether that's physical or psychological. So I'm actually better off not doing the class in terms of my diet. But, I go for other reasons as well. It's good fun, and my daughter is the instructor and that sort of thing. So
wow.
I go for lots of other reasons. And I enjoy it and I do like it. But yes, I come home and I eat more. So there's no benefit in terms of weight loss for me from that class. But it's benefits in other ways.
So maybe one can tell us, because there are a lot of other benefits, right? Because you're right. Sometimes we don't. So let's put it this way: we don't exercise only to lose weight or to burn calories. There are so many. That's what, if you guys remember, there was one paper called, Magic Bullet. And that exercise is really Magic Bullet that helps, like, prevent so many diseases and so on. So Bourne, what do you think of that? What do you tell us about exercise and its advantages? Forget about weight loss, because that's not, for many people, that's not primary reason.
Yeah, well, that's my own training motivations when I was younger. When I was younger, it was purely vanity because I was really skinny and I wanted to be a bit more muscular. And then it became competitive because I wanted to do competition bodybuilding. So I went through that phase. And these days, it's mainly for mental health. And there's been a lot of research that suggests that exercise is right up there in terms of effectiveness with antidepressants for most people. And it also helps with neuroplasticity. I know you're big on neuroplasticity, so it basically helps you have a healthier brain. Just for the oxygen flow helps a lot, and also learning the movements and patterns. So I think weight training's been a bit undervalued with its benefits in terms of mood and cognitive benefits, but it's really coming to the fore now with a bit more research that weight training is incredibly useful, especially for older people, not just for their retaining a bit of extra muscle mass and also bone mass, which is another important thing, but also for the cognitive benefits, just getting the oxygen flow and also learning the patterns.
Yeah, there was actually research when they compare, when it's antidepressant, people taking antidepressant versus for another group, they gave them placebo, so they didn't give them real antidepressant, and they just did exercise, and the effect was just about the same. So yeah,
and it tends to things tend to, if you do any number of I don't like the word interventions, positive psychology. They call positive psychology exercises. I always like to get people to do them after exercise because you've got all the feel-good hormones, and it tends to stick better. So even after just going for a walk, if you do a gratitude exercise or a mindfulness exercise, I think you get better results because you've already got those hormones circulating in your brain.
So guess what?
I know you meditate, don't you? Is it?
Yeah.
You switched your meditation schedule because
yes, exactly because of the research, and you are just in line with that research. What you are saying, yes, I used to meditate and then exercise. I just thought it was like normal. I was sleeping, so let me meditate first, then I'll exercise. But instead, the research shows that if we exercise and then meditate, the effect is much bigger. So it's in line with what you're asking your folks to do. This is really cool discussion.
Yeah, it's interesting how it all lines up. Because like you say, with how our grandparents used to eat, sometimes you don't need the science to tell you these things. You work it out yourself.
We didn't need science for anything, to live a good life.
Yeah.
But nothing wrong with it. It's good. I'm not against it, as you know. I teach it. But I think the problem is that, sometimes in the West, we all need like proof for everything, right? So, I mean, for some things, there are no proofs, right? It just works for thousands of years. It worked and it works.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Wow, cool discussion. Anything else, folks? This is, and if you have ideas for next sessions, if you have any other ideas, as I got some from Ben, I appreciate it.
Well, I would like to say to Zoe that I'm pretty sure that performing on stage live definitely counts as exercise.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I know it does, because it makes my heart beat so fast. And it makes me feel so good that lots of things are happening. And what's even better is it works on the audience as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's contagious. Yes.
Yeah, got the whole mirror neuron thing going on.
Yeah, we all kind of, I can feel it. It's my energy and their energy combined, and it's doing things to all of us, and they're good things. So I don't know what you call it. I don't know how you prove it, like you say, or how you measure it. There's been plenty of research that has tried to measure it, but just experiencing it yourself is amazing. You know, it's true. You know, there are things happening there, most
So,
certainly.
so that Zoe, that is your meditation in action when you are on
Yes.
stage, right? And
Oh,
interestingly
yes.
enough, I was just rewatching early this morning before I started working. So from 6 a.m. I was, as some of you know, we are working on this new positive psychology at the movies program, and I think it's really going to be cool. So I believe we're starting September. I'll tell you now, unofficial September 16. So anyway, I was rewatching Soul. Has anybody seen it? And Zoe, you would like that. It would be a good movie for you to see too.
Which one is it? Sorry,
It's Soul, Soul. It's on
I haven't
Disney.
seen that.
That
Oh
would
no, I
be.
haven't seen that. What's
I
it
have,
about then? Give us a synopsis.
so it's about flow. It's about
Lovely.
meditation in action. It's about I mean, it's about musician, but it's the whole movie is, it's a lot more than that. But that's really what it's all about. It's really about, and it's also about purpose and meaning. And that's another thing that I really, it looks like Disney got ideas from me. Maybe they were watching some of my webinars. But, I always talk about people get stuck with that meaning and purpose. It's like, I can't find it. I don't know what it is. But you have to be able to find it in almost everything you do on a daily basis, right? So I find it in this. This is the meaning. This is meaning of my life and my purpose, right? To share, to get together with you folks to help. So people struggle because they don't understand that meaning and purpose. It's not just, in this case was, he wanted to be a musician. That was like his life, right? But it's a lot more to our life than what you want to do, right? So we can find that purpose, and just by watching the beautiful blue sky. Here's my purpose. I'm just enjoying it, that moment, And I am actually looking through my window. It's beautiful blue sky. So so it's yeah.
So doing what feels right in the moment might well be the
Yes.
answer to finding our purpose.
Love it.
I guess that's what
but,
you're saying.
But but in addition to doing what feels right in the moment, sometimes we do what doesn't feel right in the moment, and yet has the purpose.
And we don't always realize it though, do we? Because we get used to, we sort of turn off our signals. So our body, I think, tells us lots of things all the time, and we get used to not listening and switching off. So sometimes perhaps the purpose of meditation is to listen to our bodies again, in whatever form that takes. So for me, when I'm doing music, I feel almost like I'm a channel, really. I'm not thinking about what I'm doing, it's just happening. And
that is meditation.
Everything is involved. Yeah.
You meditate. Music is meditation. I told you I started playing or learning to play guitar again. And that's my meditation in the morning. It's meditation.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's the repetition, isn't it, of the same things as well, I guess, that's a part of it becoming part of your muscle memory and everything getting involved, your whole being getting involved. Because I know when I'm performing, maybe you feel the same when you're playing. It's just what I'm supposed to be doing right there and then. And there's very few things that feel quite the same as that. I'm the same when I'm teaching. I'm just as involved in the moment. I'm not thinking about what I'm doing later or what I've done in the past. I'm thinking only in that moment with that person in front of me, because I love doing it and I love getting results and seeing things happen and seeing things change. And I guess that's what everyone is looking for, aren't they? They want that feeling that this is what they're supposed to be doing, which you don't realize till afterwards, because at the time you're not thinking about, this is me living my best life, being in flow. You're not thinking that as you're doing it because you're too busy doing it. It's only afterwards when you reflect back on it and you think, yes, then I was in flow.
Yes, yes, because you are in the flow because you know, of course, you're not thinking. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the flow. If you were thinking
Yeah.
about that stage, you wouldn't be in the flow.
As soon as we start to worry too much about whether we are or whether we're not anymore. So,
Correct.
but I suppose that's hard if you're trying to find it and you haven't found that thing. It's very difficult, isn't it? Because the more it's like chasing a rainbow. The more you go after it, the less likely you are to find it.
And yeah, and it's basically the same thing, you know, although I teach happiness, it's the same thing with happiness. It's really about the journey. That's what I always say. It's about journey. It's not end result. It's not about, right? But if you start chasing that, you're never gonna get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Easily said, not so easy. Not so easy if you're trying to help someone find it. That I do
True.
understand that.
That's true. That's true.
I guess we all just need to. It's trial and error, isn't it? Our lives are all trial and error. We need to just try lots of different things and stick with what works and makes us feel good, and get rid of the stuff that doesn't.
And I got, yeah, I know Vaughn had a question, I think, but I just want to say one thing. What I think it's really interesting as I get older, I think it's, you know, it's really interesting that the I'm just thinking of wisdom, right? There are sometimes things that only wisdom, you can only get it with wisdom. You can read anywhere, anybody can tell you, right? Because we were just talking about, you know, our son was just, you know, just got another offer, another job, and things that maybe I would tell him, but no, he needs to get that. Like it's wisdom is the only thing, right? The things that you learn over time, that's the only thing with your own experience, not with other people's experience.
He
Vaughn,
has
did
to
you?
guess it for himself. Yeah, that's
Yes,
what you're saying, aren't you?
yes,
It's not. There's no point in. Well, of course, there's a point in telling people. Of course, there's a point in sharing our wisdom. But that person, it's up to them whether they take it on board or not. And the best wisdom comes from their own experience.
we have to figure out a better way. We have to
Yeah.
figure out how do we take our wisdom collective and like create that life manual. I know nobody did it, but maybe we can. Maybe we can.
Well, it's the whole kind of no shortcuts again thing, isn't it? It keeps coming back because we are all designed to look for shortcuts because we don't want to work any harder than we have to. But I don't think there are many shortcuts. I think
Yeah,
we've got to find our own way, our own path through the things that work for us. It's the same with food, it's the same with everything. Because what works for somebody down the road or next door is not going to be the same as it is for us.
agreed. Agreed. Vaughn, did you have a question? I'm sorry, I might have cut you off earlier.
Oh, no, that's all right. I was just thinking about my son when we were talking about flow, because he is an exceptional soccer player and he's just completely stopped. Now he's got to the highest level he can as a youth. He's actually, I think he's about to stop playing. He's completely stopped enjoying it because there's so many things he used to just play and really enjoy it and just do his thing. And he would come up with the most magical plays. You couldn't believe what he'd do. And now he does almost nothing because he's just crippled by what the coach will think, the people on the sideline, the other players. They've all got these ideas of what he should be doing, and he's not just expressing himself anymore. So unless he can work through that, I think he'll probably not continue or just drop down and play at a lower level and just enjoy it again. It's a bit sad to watch, actually.
Wow. Wow. This is really interesting. Yeah.
It's really hard, isn't it? That situation because and as his dad, you want him to enjoy himself, but you can't make him enjoy himself and you can't make him do it and you can't make him ignore everyone else that's pulling him down. It's very, very hard, isn't it? I feel like that as a mother all the time. It's like I see my children doing things and I think, no, I've got it. The best way I can help them is just by saying what I think, but then stepping back.
Yes.
And it's up to them because they have to learn themselves and make their own decisions. And you can still be there to pick up the pieces later if they make the wrong one. but you've got to allow them to make the choices, haven't you?
It's the only way for
But it's
them to
very
grow up.
hard.
It's hard.
Yes, yeah, I'm leaving it with him. So he's only got 3 more games for the rest of this season, since we're in the opposite hemisphere.
Right.
But
yeah,
maybe
he'll work
that's
it out
the
after
right
that.
thing. Maybe this is a turning point for him, because maybe he's going to discover something else which is going to be even more important in his life and give him even more happiness than that. So
Yeah,
maybe
he's got
it's
a new
what's supposed
girlfriend
to
and
happen.
just bought a car and got his driver's license. So I think he's finding and started a business that's going extremely well. So I think he's finding lots of things. Soccer used to be all that was important to
Yeah,
him.
so life is moving on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going down the list of priorities, I think.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, probably.
Sounds like it's
yeah, I was worried at one stage if he didn't make it as a professional footballer, that would be quite crippling for him. But yeah, he's got a bunch of other stuff he can do now that seems more interested in. So I think it'll work out.
Of course.
That
Of course
sounds
it will.
good.
Parents like you guys. Guys, thank you so much. This was really a pleasure. I love this talk. We'll be scheduling more calls, regular calls, so that we can see each other. I know this is a little weird for some of us that used to see each other all the time, but I sometimes this works as well, and then we can share it and so on. So, anything else, folks? Any other question? Any comment? Cool. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I always look forward for my Monday meeting, of course, discussion with you folks. So please reach out if you have any question, anything, you know how to get a hold of me. I think, what did Zoe, I don't know, was it you who said like 6 or 7 ways to get a hold of me? Somebody said on one of the calls. So there are probably.
Yes, you are easy to get hold of if we want to. It's only our own fault if we don't.
Thank you.
That's what I think.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to hear your voice again and see your smile. And I'm smiling at you. I hope you can tell through my voice, because I've been smiling at you all the way through.
You always do. Yes, I can. Thank you so much. If not earlier, I will see you next Monday, and have a wonderful rest of the week. Thanks again.